It's the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That guy with the lightning bolt is Wade Neely. We'll be here for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports content, and excited to have you all with us as we do so. Wade, good afternoon.
What's happening, Mo? Good to be with you. Good to see everybody today. You could not script a better Feel Good Friday. Pumped for the next couple hours, and very excited to tap into the next couple of days here across the sports landscape.
Man, it's getting to be that time of year. We got everything going on. We got Major League Baseball winding down. We got National Football League cranking up. Obviously, college football is in full swing as well. WNBA playoffs getting ready to get started. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. In the second hour, we will be joined by Scott Rabelais of the Baton Rouge Advocate. Florida is heading into, I guess, with LSU's win over Clemson, that is Death Valley, right, Wade?
Yep, that officially declared.
Valley? Okay.
Yep, walk in there and took their dignity. Said, you know what, you didn't even need to get off your fancy little coach buses. We'll put you back on your own bus. And LSU's flying high, which means probably due for a letdown this weekend.
Could be. We will get Scott Rabelais to kind of take the Tigers' pulse heading into that game with the Gators, who are licking their own wounds at this point. Should be an interesting matchup there, among other interesting matchups involving Southeastern Conference teams this weekend. So, yeah, we'll check in with Scott Rabelais in the second hour. In the next segment, we will be joined by VALAIR SHABILLA. Talk a little footy. The boys in gold head north, kind of north and northeast, I guess, 65 to 75 or something like that. They're going to Cincinnati, taking on FC Cincinnati this weekend in MLS action. And, you know, one thing I want to ask VALAIR is, which is the bigger game, this game or the next game? So interested to get with VALAIR. We've not had him on in a minute, and need to catch up on some NSC, as they've got a couple of, pretty big games coming up. So we'll also be talking a little baseball. Some Braves, man, it's getting tough. But there's only, 16 more games.
Yeah, but you've come this far. You might as well see it through.
Yeah, exactly. But the next three are interesting because the Astros come to Truist Park this weekend. We've got a little house divided here to some degree, I guess. But Wade and I will be talking about Astros Braves here later in the show, and some other professional baseball as well. The Simmons Bank Open, the first event of the Korn Ferry Tour Finals, started yesterday. Some people started on time, some didn't. Apparently there was some weather up here during the course of the day. I was unaware because I was south of town all day yesterday. But
a little boom boom clap for us up here.
Nice. But we will check in on the Simmons Bank Open over at Vanderbilt Legends. Also, as we mentioned, a little NFL action last night, a little more NFL action coming up this weekend. We'll check on the Packers and Commanders. We'll check on the Titans and Rams. WNBA regular season finished up yesterday, and, plenty to talk about there as well. And the NASCAR playoff round of 16 wraps up this weekend at Bristol before 4 drivers are eliminated from contention for the playoff championship. So we'll get into that a little bit. In the final segment, Wade and I will take our shot at 10 weekend winners on the Wonder Slate. Man, it's loaded with some good ball games too. It's definitely going to be a test.
Yeah, big slate. This is a bounce back week. Week 2 did not have its casualties, though. Looking at you with the Florida Gators, of course. But this is more what we hope and what we expect out of week-to-week college football action. It's a good slate coming up.
Absolutely. We will get into that again in the final segment of the show, so stick around. That's what we're looking like here for the next couple of hours. Let's go ahead and jump into it with both feet. Let's give you yesterday's results and this weekend schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Rundown time, boys and girls, and on a Friday rundown, that means we give you Thursday results, and we had a trio of high school football games in our coverage area last night to give you guys an update on. If you tuned into Main Street Radio, you know all about a wild game as Beach outlasts East Nashville thanks to a late turnover, 22-19 in favor of the Bucks there. Also a close game as Cascade slips by Eagleville last night in a good battle of 2-1 ball clubs. 24-21 was your final there. And Lincoln County, the fighting Eddie Cunninghams take care of Columbia Academy in convincing fashion, 42-20, your final score last night down in Fayetteville.
Coverage of that one, by the way, at mainstreetmurray.com. Be sure and check it out.
Bada bing, bada boom. Volleyball action for Thursday night. We see Battle Creek with a 3-2 victory over Cascade. Columbia with a 3-0 win over Fayetteville. It was Culleoka defeating Santa Fe 3-1. Gallatin on top of Station Camp 3-2. Grace Christian Franklin 3. Zion Christian nothing. Loretto with a 3-0 victory over Hampshire. Stewart's Creek picking up a 3-0 win versus Laverne. Middle Tennessee Christian blanking St. Cecilia Academy 3-0. Oakland downing Blackman in 5 sets 3-2. It was Siegel winning by that same margin over Riverdale. Lebanon picking up a 3-0 win versus Smyrna. Murfreesboro Central Magnet and Columbia Academy both notching 3-0 victories over Spring Hill and the Webb School.
On the pitch yesterday, Mount Juliet's girls with a 9-0 victory over Antioch. Battle Creek defeats Giles County 7-2. Ravenwood 9, Centennial 0. Clarksville Northeast edging Kenwood 2-1. It was Coffee County 9, Middle Tennessee Christian 0. Shelbyville and Columbia Central played to a 2-2 draw. Columbia Academy, our In-to-Win Life Team of the Week, winning yesterday against Zion Christian 2-0. Cookeville with a 6-0 win over Laverne. It was Montgomery Central 4, Creekwood 1. Christ Presbyterian Academy defeated Ensworth 3-1. Fairview blanked Overton 4-0. Father Ryan with a 3-1 win over Harpeth Hall. It was Clarksville 1, Franklin Road Academy 0. Gallatin 5, Donaldson Christian 1. Hillsborough edging Hume Fogg 3-2. Lawson 4-0 over Lead Academy. Culleoka 9, Loretta 0. Murfreesboro Central with a 5-0 win over Lawrence County. Franklin blanking Nolensville 6-0. Pope John Paul II doubling up Lipscomb 2-1. Cornersville and Richland played to a 3-3 draw. It was Siegel 2, Riverdale 1. Lebanon with a 5-0 win over Smyrna. Stewart's Creek edging Wilson Central 2-1. Tullahoma 5, Martin Luther King 1. Battleground Academy 1. Valor Collegiate 0. And DeKalb County 4-1 over Watertown. In Major League Baseball action on Thursday, it was the Toronto Blue Jays picking up a 6-0 win over the Houston Astros. Over at First Horizon Park, the Nashville Sounds with a 6-4 victory over Gwinnett. We'll be talking about both those baseball outcomes later in the show. In the W, final night of the regular season, Dallas with a 97-76 win over Phoenix. The Wings going out with a somewhat good taste in their mouth because they're done for the year, did not qualify for the playoffs. The New York Liberty 91, the Chicago Sky 86. The Lynx defeating the Valkyries 72-53, and the Aces, as they had for the previous 15 games, winning again 103-75 over the LA Sparks. National Football League Thursday night action, it was Green Bay picking up a 27-18 win over Washington.
One other football score I want to pass along. Shout out to East Hickman, who picked up a 44-34 win over Forest last night. Don't know how many yards Quincy Mitchell, the stud running back for the Rockets, had, but I'm sure it was a billion. But it wasn't enough points. Again, East Hickman defeats Forest 44-34 last night. Let's tune up for
a name to remember, though. It sounds like he certainly comes as advertised. It sounds like.
He ain't messing around, folks. High school football schedule gets underway tonight at 7 p.m. Here's your slate. Greenwich, Connecticut. Yes, Greenwich, Connecticut. WWE headquarters, as a matter of fact, will be at BGA tonight at 7 p.m. You can also see Moore County at Battle Creek. Archbishop Moeller out of Ohio will visit CPA. Hunters Lane is traveling to Cane Ridge this evening. Green Hills on the road at Centennial. Brentwood Academy is visiting Chattanooga Christian. It'll be Nashville Christian at Clarksville Academy. Franklin making the trip over to Coffee County tonight. It'll be Franklin Christian at Collinwood at 7 p.m. Marshall County is at Columbia at 7. If you want to check the game out, you can in person, but you can also watch it on My TV 30. Gallatin is on the road this evening at Cookeville. Providence Christian at DCA, Good Pasture at Davidson Academy, Friendship Christian at DeKalb County. Portland will be on the road at East Robertson. McCauley is traveling to Innsworth. Briarcrest Christian visiting Father Ryan tonight. Pope John Paul II will be at Franklin Road Academy. Fairview will be at Glencliff. Liberty Creek is traveling to Gordonsville. Middle Tennessee Christian is at Grace Baptist Christian in Chattanooga. It'll be Cheatham County at Harpeth in a big old rivalry showdown tonight at 7. Dixon County is going to meet Henry County up in Paris this evening at 7 as well. Maplewood at Hillsboro tonight at 7. And Richland is on the road taking on the Hornets of Huntland.
Also, Clarksville travels southeast to Nashville, taking on John Overton at 7. Clarksville Northeast is at Kirkwood. Riverdale travels to Laverne. Lawson is hosting Wilson Central. Big Wilson County rivalry as Mount Juliet goes to Lebanon. Also, Innovation Academy goes down I-24 to Lookout Valley. Christian Brothers of Memphis coming to take on the Big Red of Montgomery Bell Academy. Lipscomb Academy going the other way, taking on Memphis University School. Antioch is at McGavock. Clarksville Northwest goes to Montgomery Central. Ezel Harding is at Mount Juliet Christian. Blackman goes to Nolensville. Oakland is hosting Pearl Cone. That's 0-3 Pearl Cone, taking on the Patriots tonight. Brentwood is at Page. Stewart's Creek goes to Rockvale. Hendersonville is at Ross View. Loretto goes to Scotts Hill in a battle of 2 0-3 programs there. Independence is at Shelbyville. Golden Eagles. Smyrna travels to Siegel. Lawrence County is at Spring Hill. Station Camp goes to Springfield. Stewart County hosts Sycamore. Creekwood is at Stratford at 7. Mount Pleasant is at Summertown. Big Region 5-2A matchup there. Ravenwood is at Summit. Joe Burns goes north of the border, taking on Todd County Central of Kentucky. Giles County is heading over to Watertown. Houston County is at Wayne County. Kenwood is at West Creek. Westmoreland hosts Smith County. Inner city rivalry here as White House Heritage goes to White House. Greenbrier is at White's Creek at 7. And finally at 7 o'clock, Grace Christian of Franklin travels to Zion Christian.
If you're looking for volleyball tonight, you better buckle up because this game gets underway at 4 p.m. when Montgomery County out of Georgia takes on Eagleville. Smyrna and Siegel will also do battle at 4 p.m. At 5 o'clock, it'll be Elizabethton taking on Central Magnet out of Murfreesboro. Nation Ford, South Carolina will meet Eagleville at 6. Independence and Eagleville will close that one out tonight at 8 p.m. Also at 8, it'll be Boiling Springs, South Carolina, meeting Murfreesboro Central Magnet. Girls soccer action this evening. 4:50, your kickoff times for Notre Dame. That's Notre Dame, New York, of course, taking on Grace Christian Franklin. Franklin Christian will meet Oneida at 4:50. Good folks over there in Oneida. Visited them a couple weeks ago. Merrill Hyde is going to meet Seymour at 4:50 this evening. Greenbrier will be at Republic. That's a 5 o'clock kickoff. Also at 5, it'll be St. Cecilia Academy at the Webb School. 6:40 start time for Franklin County, who's visiting Liberty Creek. Arlington will be meeting Station Camp at 6:40 as well. White House Heritage is going to meet Carter, but that game doesn't kick off until 8:30 this evening. Also at 8:30 tonight, it'll be Fairview meeting Cosby. 6:15 this evening on FanDuel Sports Southeast. You can see the Braves and the Astros getting it on in Atlanta. Once again at 6:15, first pitch. It'll be Copa de la Diversion tonight at 6:35 as Gwinnett and Nashville will tangle at First Horizon Park. It'll be your final Friday fireworks of the season as well. Once again, 6:35 is your first pitch time.
Saturday high school volleyball action, 9 o'clock. Murfreesboro Central faces Galloway of Georgia. In girls soccer on Saturday, these are 9 o'clock starts for Harding Academy and Grace Christian out of Franklin, as well as University School of Nashville and Seymour. At 10:50, it's Westview and Station Camp. Also, Providence Christian and William Blunt. William Blunt got some issues because not only are they scheduled to play Providence Christian at 10:50, they are also scheduled to play Creekwood at 10:50. Check your local listings. At 12:40, Lawrence County of Kentucky takes on Granger. Fairview and Sequoia face off at 12:40. At 2:30, it's Harding Academy and Merrill Hyde, Grace Christian of Franklin, and Seymour Creekwood takes on Anderson County at 4:20. Again, Providence Christian also taking on Anderson County at 4:20. We got some glitches, but at any rate, Liberty Creek and Silverdale will also play at 4:20. At 6:10, Lawrence County of Kentucky takes on Carter. Franklin Christian takes on Granger at 6:10, and White House Heritage takes on the aforementioned Oneida Lady Indians at 6:10.
Let's keep the schedule rolling for Saturday, and let's go college football at 2:30 on ABC, Georgia and Tennessee. We'll do battle up at Neyland Stadium. Also at 3:30, it'll be Alabama A&M at TSU. That game can be seen on ESPN+. At 4 o'clock, MTSU is traveling to Nevada. Buckle up, Blue Raiders. 6 p.m. showdown for Morehead State at Austin Peay. Austin Peay finally decided to pick on somebody their own size this week, taking on Morehead State again at 6 p.m. on ESPN+. Vanderbilt and South Carolina will close it out locally at 6:45. That game is going to be broadcast on the SEC network. Baseball action continues at 6:15 as the Astros visit the Braves on FanDuel Sports South. 6:35, First Horizon Park is your destination. It'll be Hit City Saturday. It'll be the hoodie giveaway, and it will also be Fan Appreciation Night, as again, 6:35 in your final Saturday contest of the season at home for the Sounds. NSC will be on the road, as we mentioned, at 6:30, taking on FC Cincinnati. A 6:30 kickoff, and you can see that contest on Apple TV.
Soccer action, girls style, Sunday at 9 o'clock. Arlington faces Liberty Creek, also at 9 o'clock. Fairview takes on Sequatchie County, and Franklin County faces Station Camp. At 10:50, it's University School of Nashville and Merrill Hyde. St. Joseph Central of Ohio and Knox Central. At 12:50, it's Providence Christian and Creekwood. Lawrence County of Kentucky and Franklin Christian, and White House Heritage takes on Granger. Those are all 12:40 starts. Baseball action, 12:35. Again, you can see it on FanDuel. It's Houston and Atlanta finishing up their series down at Truist Park. The final home game of the Nashville Sounds is Sunday at 6:05 at First Horizon Park. They will close out their series against Gwinnett. Again, it's Fan Appreciation Day. It's also 2026 Schedule Cling giveaway, and it's Sunday Family Fun Day out at First Horizon Park. Finally, 12 noon, Nissan Stadium, Los Angeles Rams, Tennessee Titans. You can see it on CBS. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes your rundown. Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options, available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. Belmont's women's basketball team has plans for the holidays, specifically Thanksgiving, as they will be going to the Bahamas, playing in the Baha Mar Classic, taking on Ohio State in their opening matchup, with West Virginia and McNeese State awaiting the outcome of that ball game there. So big trip for the Lady Bruins, for Bart Brooks and crew, as they head down to the Caribbean, I guess. The Baha Mar Hoops Pink Flamingo Championship. It's an 8-team, multi-team event. Belmont, Ohio State, West Virginia, and McNeese are in the Goombay division. The two winners will play each other, and there will be a consolation game as well. The Junkanoo division includes Alabama, Harvard, Minnesota, and South Florida. Games will be played Tuesday and Wednesday, Monday and Wednesday, November 24th and November 26th. So Belmont looking for some get back, as they had Ohio State here in Nashville back in November, led by 9 with a little over 5 minutes to play, eventually fell 67-63. So again, Bart Brooks and crew looking to seal the deal down in the Bahamas this time around.
Yeah, a chance, face some stiff competition, hopefully, and maybe grab a nice neutral site win. Go ahead and bolster that resume. We see it in women's college basketball a lot. Teams aren't necessarily afraid to go out and really, really schedule some tough competition. But this is kind of what you want, right? If you're going to go down, yeah, it's going to be a fun trip outside of the basketball, but you're trying to hopefully take care of business as well. So give your fans a little bit of the best of both worlds. A nice kind of break and get away from the festivities that normally come along with Thanksgiving. Chance to eat a little turkey on the beach for once. Can't say I've ever done that, but a chance to kind of also see what your team is really about as well. So kudos to them for pulling off on the schedule. And who knows how it will turn out, but you at least have the opportunity to meet some good competition.
Absolutely. Belmont trying to break an 0-3 series skid against Ohio State. They have not played either West Virginia or McNeese. So big matchup there to open the Baja Mar Hoops Pink Flamingo Championship for Belmont. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, as we continue the weekend warm-up. When we come back, we'll be joined by VALAIR SHABILLA of 615 Soccer, talking a little footy. Stick around.
Closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need...
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
833.
Busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Not
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Joining us now from 615soccer.com, it is VALAIR SHABILLA, our footy expert. VALAIR, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for having me.
No, man, thank you for coming in with us. So tell me real quick before you and Wade take over this conversation, and rightfully so, bigger game tomorrow in Cincinnati or Tuesday back here in Nashville?
I think anytime you're 2 wins away from a cup, I would say that's probably the biggest game you'll have rather than another league game. That's not to take away from the Cincy game that's coming up, because I do think that's a very important game. I just think having the opportunity to go to one of the oldest competitions in the world the final of that competition is probably always just going to be a little sweeter and a little more important.
Kind of setting the stage there, Valair, but let's kind of start chronologically at least. NSC feels like it's been a while since we've kind of really experienced that joy and those all-around good vibes that we saw a couple weeks ago even. But give us the state of the team first and foremost, and kind of give us your preliminary thoughts as they do make a tricky road trip.
Yeah, I think one of the big distinctions that VJ Callahan always been making throughout the season, and even early on when he was first brought into the end of last season, is the difference between the process and the result, right? And it's always, what does the process look like? What is your input as a player? What is your input as a manager? What are you inputting into this process, and what is it spitting out as the output, right? And sometimes those two things don't equal out. And maybe that is some coach speak. Maybe that is him being a little political about it. But in general, this team didn't play as bad as the results show. And especially, I think, in that Atlanta game, which was the latest game here at Geodis Park at home, Nashville were the far better team, I thought, in that game. If they play that game 9 times out of 10, Nashville probably at the very least gets a draw, if not wins that match. So really, I don't think the results have been as bad. I think the two sort of eyesores are the St. Louis and Atlanta matches, because those are two very bad teams in MLS this season. Not to beat around the bush there. I don't really blame them for going to Inter Miami and going to San Diego and losing. I mean, that's just not something that those two teams are really good. So really then the question becomes about those other two games, which I thought Nashville played better than their opponents in those two games. It's just unfortunate that the result didn't go their way. But the most important stretch of the season is still ahead of them, even with all the bad results that have happened recently. The most important part still hasn't been played, and it's still in their hands. The Supporter Shield is probably a far-fetched thing now. I don't think they were aiming for it to start with, honestly, despite what they were saying. But I think MLS Cup and the U.S. Open Cup are still fully in play for this Nashville team.
And as they enter this game versus Cincinnati, we've seen so many positive things out of Hani Mukhtar, obviously, and Sam Surge, of course, who maybe is somebody that is on the cusp of tapping into something extra coming down the stretch here in your mind? Or who would you maybe like to see kind of turn on the Jets a little more as we kind of enter the real crunch time part of the schedule?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of sort of overachievers or just players who are playing really well who have gotten credit throughout the season. One player who's kind of breaking into the starting lineup now, and maybe we're starting to see a little bit of what he brings, is Gaston Brugman. This is a guy who is, other than the designated players, your 3 highest paid players, he is right there, right after them. So he's not a designated player, but he's right below that. And when you are paying somebody that much, there are 2 players being at that level. That's Tyler Boyd, who just came back from over a year worth of injury. So he missed over a year due to injury. So I'm not really expecting much from Tyler Boyd. But Gaston Brugman is the second one. And that's the guy I think he can unlock things. I think somebody who can really play that final pass, especially against a team like Cincinnati, who maybe wouldn't sit back and defend as much as Atlanta did here at Geodis Park. Maybe somebody that can leave you a little bit of a space. It's not just 11 men behind the ball and just trying to defend. I think that might be something that Gaston Brugman can find, that low space, those little pockets to find the players. Now, a lot of the criticism for Gaston Brugman has been him sort of in the other side of the ball, right? The defending. Can he do that part? Because BJ Callahan's system is relentless. BJ Callahan's system is run, press. You have to be on your game. And honestly, I've been pretty surprised with how well he's been able to handle that part of the game. And, let's not forget the latest MLS Cup, 2024 MLS Cup, Gaston Brugman was the MVP of that game. He won the most valuable, he won best player of that game. So really, I think he has the quality. It's just a matter of getting to it. It took him a long time to get into the starting lineup, but now that he's into the starting lineup, I think he has a really good claim to make. And especially and even against Atlanta, I thought he played really well, created enough chances to at least get an assist, but unfortunately the ball just didn't go in.
Valair SHABILLA of 615 Soccer joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Nashville Soccer Club heads up to FC Cincinnati tomorrow. Again, you can see it on Apple TV. NSC right now, 4th on the Eastern Conference table behind Philadelphia Union, who they will play on Tuesday, but it won't be an MLS game. FC Cincinnati and Charlotte has tied NSC with 50 points. Again, Cincinnati with 52, Philadelphia with 57. Valair, you kind of alluded to the fact that maybe the supporter shield is kind of out of reach at this point. Is it?
So the other thing to keep in mind is that Miami is 4 games behind, and they are a little bit under. You have on the western side, you have San Diego, who are flying. You also have Vancouver, who have 2 games in hand. So it's, I mean, mathematically, they're still in it. But I just think in terms of actual what we've seen this season, Philadelphia, San Diego, and Miami are probably the only 3 teams I would realistically say the supporter shield is still in play for. That doesn't mean that, 5 games in soccer is a lot. That's 15 points on the table. But also looking at the difficulty of the schedule, that's another reason why I say Nashville SC. Nashville SC still has to play Miami. Now, granted, that is at home. They have to play Orlando away. They have to play Cincinnati away. So those are really tough games. Obviously, the Open Cup game is in the middle of that sandwich between that. So these aren't easy games. To where if you look at Miami's schedule, they have DC, they have New England, they have Chicago. Those aren't teams that will give Miami much trouble. One thing I will say about Miami is that they do have, starting this upcoming game, they'll have 2 games a week to catch up with everybody else, right? So there will be some fatigue. Obviously, they're all, almost in their 40s at this point. So they're going to need a little bit. They're going to need a lot more rest than I think some of the other teams. However, regardless of their age, the quality of Miami shows. Now, and that's some of the reason of why I'm saying the supporter shield just seems like a little far-fetched. I think those teams have a better shot at it than Nashville SC. That said, you do want to finish in the top 4 because that does give you some home field advantage in the playoff. And if you can do even second or first, or the higher up, the better you are. So just because the supporter shield is not in play, that doesn't mean you kind of fall into the 5th and 6th spot, because you're immediately losing your home field advantage in 5 and 6. And then, if you fall even lower than that, which I don't see Nashville doing, but if you fall in the 8 and 9 spot, now you're playing a play-in game, and you definitely don't want to add that and have that sort of collapse at the end of the season. So just because supporter shield is not in play doesn't mean you don't want to finish as high as possible, because every spot matters, especially in this Eastern Conference where things are just so tight.
Spinning ahead just a little bit, what's your read on the U.S. Open Cup semifinal on Tuesday?
It's going to be an interesting one. So the Philadelphia Union are the current leaders of the supporter shield in MLS. They have been a really good team. Nashville SC have beaten them twice this season, both in MLS. So home and away, they've been able to beat Philly. That's not something that was expected, especially not with them, with the Union being this good. I think one of the main things I'm looking at is how does Geodis Park play into this, and how does the crowd in Nashville play into this? Because we've seen this crowd be a sort of 12-man is cliche, but maybe somebody just a little bit of a push for these players. And we saw this happen at the Philly game here in town, just a few months ago when Philadelphia came to town and Nashville SC were down a man and were able to score a penalty in the last minute to win the game. And I thought that was one of the sort of best atmospheres we've had at Geodis Park probably since Leagues Cup final. And I think you guys had me on the show right after, actually, and we talked about it here. Like, I think that to me is what I'm looking at as an opportunity to bring everybody in. Tickets, as I understand, aren't very expensive. Season ticket holders would have opted in automatically unless you opted out. You do have to pay a little bit extra to it. But again, this is your team playing in the semifinal, which is, it's probably the biggest game Nashville SC have played since that Leagues Cup final, because the playoffs games they played against Orlando that season were just terrible, honestly. So I think it's a very big game, and I think if that occasion is used for Nashville's advantage, I think they can really pull one more on Philadelphia. And look, 3 games against us, you win 3 games against a Supporters Shield winner or at least contender. I think that's going to give you some confidence going forward in MLS as well.
You kind of answered this a little bit, Valair, too, but I'm also wondering the flip side. How is Philadelphia approaching this? Because they seemingly are a much bigger, I'm looking at playoffstatus.com. They have a 71% chance at winning the 1 seed in the East alone. I'm just kind of wondering where their priorities lie. And I know it's a semifinal, but if there was a team that was to maybe let their foot off the gas in terms of roster management for this week, it seemingly would be Philadelphia in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing you got to think about is that they are going to Vancouver tomorrow. So they have to go across the continent to Vancouver to play Vancouver in a game that might determine their Supporters Shield. Because if they lose this game to Vancouver, it will put them in a pretty unfavorable spot for the Supporters Shield. And like I mentioned, they are one of the teams that are kind of poised for that Supporters Shield contention. So Nashville's game against Cincinnati, first, Cincinnati's a lot closer than Vancouver to the Eastern Conference. Second, I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying if there was, a misstep there, it's not going to be as detrimental as Philadelphia losing to Vancouver. So I think they come into this game maybe a little more beaten up, a little bit more travel, maybe rotated. Maybe they have a lot more to play for in those MLS games. That said, I think the idea that Nashville SC beating Philadelphia Union 3 times in 1 season will motivate these players enough. These 2 teams had a red card in the first game they played against each other in Subaru Park in Chester, Pennsylvania. They had a red for Philadelphia. They had a red card in Nashville at Geodis Park for Nashville SC. So this is not a friendly let's go play a little bit of a cup soccer. I think it's gonna get dirty, and I think when you're looking at the semifinal, you're looking at 2 very aggressive teams. Not in terms of physicality necessarily, but also physicality, but just overall, they're 2 trains going right at each other, and they're gonna keep. Philadelphia hasn't changed the way they played. They're not gonna change the way they play. Nashville believe in themselves. They're at home. There's gonna be fans there, so I think all of these factors of Philadelphia coming into the game maybe will diminish as soon as that first whistle goes through, because honestly, it's a semifinal. It's a one-off game. Doesn't matter what happened before or after. This is your chance. This is your opportunity. So I think just the occasion and how big the occasion is, and because it's those 2 teams, maybe these outside factors don't play as much of a part.
Valair, I thought you were going to work into some Eminem there for a second. One chance, will you take it? Tell me something. You all have an article on 615soccer.com about defender Jordan Knight being signed from Huntsville City. What's the significance of that acquisition for NSC?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think when you look at Huntsville City, has been around for a few years now, and we've seen more activity of that team to the first team since BJ Callahan has been around than any time before him. And I think that's a really, really important thing to see. And I'll talk about Jordan Knight as a player, because I do think he has the potential to be a first-team player. But just overall, the message this is sending for the players in Huntsville, for the kids in the academy, because we've seen Chris Applewhite being signed to a homegrown deal straight from the academy. These things are important to BJ Callahan and this Nashville squad, because you got to give belief to people, to those players who are playing day in, day out, working their butts off, whether it's in the academy at all the way from age 12 all the way to 18-year-olds, and then in Huntsville kind of even early 20s. And I think that's having that sort of belief in them, to bring them into the first team, to bring them into these Open Cup games, to play these players in important MLS minutes. Another one is Carlton as well, who's having an incredible season in Huntsville. He played his first MLS minutes with Nashville SC. That's gonna be something that is gonna mean a lot to those Huntsville players, and I think it pushes them a little bit to perform their best for Huntsville. And BJ Callahan has been very consistent that he wants the academy, Huntsville, and Nashville SC to be in the same wavelength. It doesn't mean they play the same formation. It just means that they play in the same way, that it's more plug and play. So then when you bring Jordan Knight from Huntsville to Nashville, he's already been training with Nashville for a while, right? So he knows BJ Callahan. He knows the players around him. B, the system is close enough to what the first team is. It's not going to be a huge drop off. And for Jordan Knight specifically, this is a guy that had huge potential with, I believe, Columbus's second team for a while, and has played in a couple different positions, but he can be a fullback for the most part. And that is a place that we've talked about Nashville needing more depth in. So it really makes sense for him to be there. BJ Callahan said they rewarded him with a first team contract because of the play he did in Huntsville, because of how he played in Huntsville. And I think that's, again, a very big message, a very nice message to have for those players.
Valair, you mentioned Miami earlier, and I want to backtrack just a little bit. Everybody's talking about spitting, and in the NFL and in college football, but can we remind everybody that Luis Suarez is the original spitter, and break down the significance of his absence now with a 3-game suspension, including a game in a rematch versus the Sounders? How did this all come about, and should we be surprised to see him get a 3-match ban like this?
Well, he's the original biter. But
yes, he's the original Nosferatu for sure. But now, he's upped his game here and gone on to spitting, which has obviously become a copycat league across the other sports.
If you're curious what we're talking about, just Google Suarez bite. You'll see evidence. You'll see a lot of it. You might see some things you don't want to see as well. That said, I think for that one it's a little bit of an interesting one because it happened in a different competition than MLS, right? It happened in the League's Cup, where Luis Suarez spit on the head of security for the Sounders, I believe, or somebody who works in the security team for the Sounders. And this is a man who's like, an older gentleman, let's just say. So it's not like a player. He's not somebody who's he didn't only spit on him. He stepped on his foot and kind of pushed him a little bit, and he spit on him. Obviously, you don't handle yourself like that. Also, Sergio Busquets, who is another player who's won everything with Barcelona, with Spain. He swung at a young player, a 20-year-old. He almost punched him in the face. He did punch. He hit him in the face. So, this behavior, I think the League's Cup folks couldn't let go of. They couldn't just say, well, this is Miami. This is what happens. You move on. And I think that's one thing that the League's Cup decided. I think they gave Suarez 6 games, and I think they gave Busquets 2 or 3 games in the League's Cup. However, there's a good chance these two players are not playing next season, meaning that this suspension means nothing. There's a very good chance Luis Suarez, at the tender age of 84 or whatever, can't play another match. So with that said, I think MLS, looked at this as an opportunity to maybe punish him for what he'd done. The other thing is that it happened against an MLS opposition. It happened against an MLS team, the Seattle Sounders. It happened against MLS players. And this is, this competition, the League's Cup, is made up of MLS and Liga MX teams. So It's not like it happened in some, different world. It happened against your own players, your own staff, and pretty much, on your home soil. So MLS giving him a 3-game match ban, I think that's fair. I think it makes sense. I think, Luis Suarez has always been that kind of player. I'm not the first one to say this. This is not some sort of breaking news. He's a competitor, and sometimes those competitors, when you beat them, they start acting like babies. And honestly, it's a disgrace for these players to act in this way, because they are supposed to be the sort of models, right? Some of the kids in Seattle, by the way, Seattle beat them with a bunch of academy kids too. Some of those kids in Seattle grew up watching these people. They are their heroes. And then they act like that as soon as they lose a game. It's a League's Cup final. Luis Suarez, you've won the Champions League. I just don't understand the level of this, and it didn't turn the Miami team into the villains of MLS, which some people argue that that's necessary. Probably. It's just a good storyline, right? And here we are talking about it, so it makes sense.
That was the main thing is, I was wondering, we talked, especially with Miami and skipping the All-Star break, if MLS would kind of have the balls to really go after them. And when you limit the suspension just to League's Cup, it seems pretty toothless, right? Pardon the Suarez pun there, I suppose. But whenever you kind of enact that to me shows a little more backbone. And, Miami seemingly embraces this kind of villain role. But it was kind of good to at least see MLS stand up for itself a little bit and extend this suspension here.
Yeah, and as they should. They're the league. They I mean, regardless of what Messi or Suarez or whoever it is, they signed the contract to play here, and they got the benefits of playing here. Part of it is just going to be dealing with these sort of things, because just like any other league in the world, I mean, Luis Suarez bit somebody in England, and he got a 3-match suspension, I'm pretty sure. There's some allegation of
10-match ban from the FA in 2013.
Biting somebody. Right. He also bit somebody at the World Cup. So this guy has history. There's also allegation of racial stuff that he said back in the day. So if you just let this sort of behavior slip, I think it's just going to be one of those things where it would escalate. He will think he can get away with it, and who knows? Maybe by the end of the season, he'll be biting Walker Zimmerman or something.
I loved his quote too in 2014. He said, "Biting appalls people, but it's relatively harmless." It's easy for you to say, Suarez, with those porcelain veneers he's got there.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to say that when you're the biter than the bitee, I guess.
And the infamous handball in the World Cup 4 years even prior to that versus Ghana.
Right. And I think like it's even the absurdity of you being bitten in a soccer game, and not any soccer game, a World Cup soccer, like. That's insane. That's insane. I'm sorry. That's just insane.
I mean, if you are the one getting bitten, how do you not just look up and say, what the hell? Yeah. To speak to the absurdity of it, that is wild. Valair Shabilla from 615 Soccer joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Real quick, Valair, before we let you get away. Mexico, South Korea, Tuesday at Geodis, played to a 2-2 draw. What was that like?
It's pretty interesting. It was a crowd at Geodis that I think generally just would not be there. I was pretty surprised by the amount of South Korea fans. I mean, not in a bad way. I was just didn't know they would show up this big. I didn't think there would be. I knew there's a huge Mexican population in Nashville, obviously all across America, but in Nashville we have a good amount of Mexican population, and I knew there was a smaller South Korean population. I didn't know it was a more prominent, and a lot of people traveled from South Korea and from other parts of the United States to be there, whether it's journalists, media, or fans. So it was cool to see that side, because we don't really get to see that part of soccer from that world come here often. So it was really cool. Another international match. I think the attendance was 27,000 plus some. So really good attendance for a game that didn't include the home team so overall, I think like Mexico brought the fans. They always bring the energy. I think they always bring that sort of the vibes to the game. I think the actual game was really fun as well, like on the pitch, and it ended 2-2. Last minute goal, some bangers, some superstars. Heung-min Son was there from South Korea. Obviously the Mexican team like Raul Jimenez. These are big Premier League, now MLS stars for some of them. So it was really cool to see that, in my backyard essentially. So it was really, really an interesting one. And I thought the South Korean fans kind of were the nice anecdote to the Mexican fans. There was a little bit of back and forth. They all did the wave together, so that was nice to see. But overall, pretty good, friendly, really nice. And I'm curious to see if there's more coming to Geodis Park as we approach the World Cup, because it's a really nice venue. It's kind of one of those where, Nashville is a bit easier to navigate probably than booking, MetLife Stadium or something like that. So I wonder if we'll see a few more friendlies before the World Cup.
And hopefully some of the Korean fans offered you some soju to celebrate after that 2-2 draw. Hopefully you
Unfortunately, no. I need to go find a good Korean spot in town, man. But I do like their cuisine a lot. I do like it.
Valair Shabilla joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Valair, as always, we appreciate it, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, Valair.
Let's take a break here as we continue the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We'll talk a little baseball when we come back. Come back with us.
Columbia Power and Water Systems is dedicated to bringing our customers reliable local service. Whether you're turning on a light switch, your faucet, or streaming on TV, our dedicated team members from here in Murray County work every day to keep you on. If you need us, call us 931-388-4833 or visit cpws.com. CPWS, local service, local support.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
September 12th, 1972. Coming out of the bullpen, Denny McClain allowed 3 ninth-inning runs without retiring a batter as Cincinnati rallied past the host Braves 7-5. It would be the final Major League appearance for McClain, the 1968 American League Cy Young winner, and the last 30-game winner in MLB as a member of the Detroit Tigers. Often connected to gambling allegations over his career, the last batter McClain faced was Reds left fielder Pete Rose, later banned by MLB for gambling. That was this day in Braves history. A little synchronicity there, I guess, maybe. But interesting stuff. Braves Houston 6-15 at Truist Park. The Astros coming in at 79-68. Atlanta 16 games under 500 at 65-81, coming off an off day yesterday. Jaden Murray, no record, no ERA. He's only thrown 2 1/3 major league innings, but he gets the start for the Astros tonight. It'll be Hurston Waldrop 4-0 with a 1.33 earned run average going to the mound for Atlanta tonight. The young gun out of Florida has really been impressive this time around after making a brief major league appearance last year and struggling a little bit. Tomorrow, it's Hunter Brown and Bryce Elder. Elder coming off a couple of nice starts back to back. And Sunday, it will be Framber Valdez, and his catcher will be making sure he's got all the signs right, I guess. Joey Wentz going for the Braves on Sunday. Interesting series here because, again, Houston lost to Toronto yesterday at Toronto 6-0, and Seattle won last night 7-6. So the Astros and the Mariners tied at the top of the AL West.
Yeah, Houston's got to get it together if they want to make one last push and get into the dance here. We've talked about the Braves being spoilers. This borderline qualifies as a spoiler. You're thinking, keeping the Mets or the Phillies or the Brewers or the Cubs or somebody of real stature, but not the Astros. Yeah, just the lovable little AAA spunky team that's somehow losing games at the right amount of times that the Mariners are until they're not. All of a sudden we're tied. Rangers nipping at everybody's heels, only 2 back. It's going to be an interesting sprint to the finish for those 3 teams in the AL West.
Dicebell Hernandez goes to the 15-day IL for Atlanta. Shoulder inflammation. Hunter Stratton called up from Gwinnett, which means he was basically called up from here in Nashville, which is where the Stripers have been this week. But, really at this point, it's kind of like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. It's just 16 more games to play. Let's get them over with and let's get ready for 2026. It has got to be the approach if you are the Braves now. We're win, lose, just get them over with. But, Wade, the Angels tried to do y'all a solid yesterday again. 7-6 the final there, Seattle winning. Mike Trout going yard. Career home run number 399 for the Hall of Famer? Maybe. Trout's first home run since, I think, August 6th. He's been fighting it a little bit, but nice to see him touch one off and get a little bit closer to that milestone again. I don't know. There are those who would look at me like I've got three eyes when I say Hall of Famer question mark behind Mike Trout, but one of the best abilities is availability, and he hasn't necessarily been for the last few years. I don't know.
Yeah, this is one you've brought up a few times over the course of the season.
I think it's an interesting conversation to have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily anti. I just think that I don't know that it's the certainty that some people want to approach it as. That's all.
I guess
I don't have an issue with Mike Trout.
We'll find out about 10 or 15 years, right?
It's just just the fact that he's not been able to get on the field for the Angels the way anybody would have liked has made it really tough, I think. So we'll see. Maybe, I don't know. And at this point, I don't even know if he bounces back and strings together a couple of years. How old is he?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
34, maybe?
Let's see. Mike Trout age?
Man, I'm
34.
good. 34. Yeah.
You are good. Just turned 34. Hadn't homered since August 6th. His 34th birthday was August 7th. So maybe that, I don't know if that was a coincidence or if there was a connection. But yeah, Mike Trout, home run number 399 last night. Maybe he'll get on a little run here late for the Angels and get that milestone. He certainly wants to get that milestone out of the way this year, obviously. So looking at the standings again, Houston and Seattle tied in the AL West. Toronto's up 3 on the Yankees, up 3.5 on Boston. The Padres with a 2-0 win over Colorado last night. The Dodgers were off, so the Padres are 2.5 behind LA in the NL West coming into this weekend's action. David and I talked yesterday about the Nationals and the Marlins, big matchup there between Mackenzie Gore and Ryan Weathers, a couple of former Padres #1 picks. Well, Ryan Weathers goes 5 scoreless, strikes out 4, picks up the win as Miami defeats the Nationals 5-0. Weathers improving to 2-1 on the year, but it's been a while. Obviously, he was coming off the IL. That was his first activity at the major league level since mid-June, I guess. So nice to see him come out and basically pick up where he left off.
Yeah, good to see the young buck kind of still, battling, still trying to do his part and be a professional and go about his business here to close out hopefully another good start or two before the end of the season and kind of keep those good vibes rolling through the off.
Absolutely. We mentioned Nashville defeating Gwinnett at First Horizon Park last night, 6-4. What we didn't mention was it was a walk-off win for the Sounds. Eric Haas with a 2-run home run to finish it off. Driving Reynel Delgado, who had a pair of hits earlier in the game, but drew a walk to get on base for Haas in the bottom of the 9th to finish that thing off. 6-4 Nashville. They play again tonight at 6:35. But the big minor league news came out of Albuquerque a couple of days ago. The Isotopes scoring in every inning Wednesday against the El Paso Chihuahuas in a 21-10 victory. Actually, I guess they only scored in 8 innings since. Let's see. Hang on.
I got faith in you.
No, they were the visiting team. So, yeah, they scored in all 9 of their at-bats. Scored 7 runs in the first, put up crooked numbers in the second and the 8th as well, and 2 in the 9th. Scored in every inning. That's a accomplishment that has only happened 20 times at the major league level. The last time in the majors was September of 2016 when, of all people, the White Sox beat Cleveland 11-4. But they didn't do nearly the offensive damage that the Isotopes did at El Paso. Again, 21-10, 7-3-1, 1-1-1, 1-4-2 was the line score for the Isotopes in that 11-run victory. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, I love the caption. It's basically like MLB The Show on rookie mode. I mean, you just, or when you got a team on Diamond Dynasty where you have like 99s across the board and your opponent that you draw, he's got 60s and 50s, kind of taking your aim for those guys that night.
Yeah, no doubt. Hour number 1 is in the books here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back for hour number 2, we'll talk a little Southeastern Conference football with Scott Rabelais of the Baton Rouge Advocate. Stay tuned. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Is your internet slowing you down? It's time for an upgrade. Whether you're at home, working from your home office, or at your business, it's time to unleash the speed you need with speeds up to 1 gig at CPWS for as low as $70 a month. Give us a call, 931-375-7777. Local service, local support, CPWS.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
It's hour number 2 of the weekend warm-up here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Joining us now to talk a little Southeastern Conference football from the Baton Rouge Advocate, it's Scott Rabelais. Scott, good afternoon.
Hey, how are you guys today?
We're doing well, man. Yeah, appreciate you taking some time with us today. Big matchup over in your backyard tomorrow night as Florida comes in to take on number 3 Louisiana State. That's a 6:30 kickoff. You can see it on ABC. Scott, what do you feel like the storylines are out of this one?
For LSU, it's trying to regain a little of the momentum that they lost in a sluggish 23-7 win over Louisiana Tech last week. Momentum from beating Clemson on the road to start the season. They jumped up to that number 3 national ranking, and they kind of got to prove it now against the Florida team that is obviously coming in here off of a disappointing home loss to South Florida. They're now ranked, having beaten 2 ranked teams, and Billy Napier is his seat seems very hot, and they have as brutal a schedule as I've ever seen. It's just the way it's turned out. Their remaining 10 games, they play 8. Florida plays 8 ranked teams. 5 of them are currently in the top 10, and they play Mississippi State, and they go to Kentucky, which has always been a kind of a tough game for Florida. So it's not looking good for Billy Napier, I wouldn't think, but I didn't think it was looking good for him last year, and they beat LSU in Gainesville. So it's who has the upper hand? LSU's got their center Braylon Moore is coming back. They say he's going to be back from the sprained ankle against Louisiana Tech last week. Florida is supposedly getting Caleb Banks back for the first time. He really gave LSU a very difficult time last year in Gainesville on the defensive line. So it's an interesting game. It's a great rivalry. It still is, whether both teams are ranked or not, and whether one team's coming off a loss or not. And it's going to be it's a huge one for LSU trying to maintain that momentum, because they'll beat Southeastern Louisiana next week, and then they'll go to if they can do that, they will go to Ole Miss 4-0, and that's pretty big. And then Florida just trying to keep their season from going off the rails, which you definitely could in these next few weeks.
You mentioned it, Scott. Billy Napier really looked like he was on shaky ground last year and somehow right at the ship. Relative to what you thought his tenure was going to be when he took this job after having been at Louisiana, some folks call it Louisiana Lafayette, but they prefer Louisiana. But, for what you expected out of him going to Florida, what have you seen?
Well, I certainly didn't expect they were going to go 20-20. I wasn't entirely sure. People don't always, success on the mid-major level doesn't always translate to the SEC or the Big Ten or another power conference. So, but I certainly thought they'd be better than 20-20. This is obviously it's got to be a huge disappointment to Florida fans. He's kind of, they say, just for everything I've read and heard and talking to people and done a couple of shows in Gainesville this week, kind of all the goodwill he built up with that 4-game winning streak that started with the LSU win last year. The end of the season is kind of evaporated again with the loss to South Florida, and maybe South Florida is going to be a playoff team. We don't know. I mean, they look like a solid top 25 again group of 5 team. So we don't know, but it's looking kind of rough for Billy. But I question, guys, is Florida maybe part of the problem too? Since Urban Meyer left, they haven't won an SEC championship. They've only had like 4 seasons of 10 wins or more, and they've had like 5 losing seasons. So it's not the Florida that we came to expect under Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. It's more the Florida lately that we saw before Spurrier, back in maybe in the 1970s. So it's I don't know what to say, because there's no reason Florida shouldn't win. It shouldn't be perennially among the top teams in the SEC.
I thought you made a good point just a second ago. Maybe this isn't as bad a loss as a lot of people are making it out to. Florida losing to South Florida. Maybe they deserve a little bit more grace as far as that game goes.
Yes, exactly. They certainly might. It's a very small sample size. Like LSU's win at Clemson. They struggled last week against Troy. They got to go to Georgia Tech tomorrow. That's a very intriguing game, and I think could say more about LSU's win, depending how Clemson handles this business at not a great Georgia Tech team, but certainly one that's very capable of winning. So that's the position LSU finds itself in against Florida. I think it's certainly LSU's touchdown favorite or so, deservedly so at home. But Florida's got enough talent to spring the upset if the Tigers don't raise the level of their game past the way they played against Louisiana Tech.
Scott, obviously LSU's always under a microscope, but especially after you get off to a fast start. And we talked all offseason about seeing good Nussmeier and bad Nussmeier. Kind of a stat line last week. I'm curious, what did you see that you liked out of the LSU quarterback, and what did you maybe see that you didn't like last week?
Well, he manages the game very well. He's a fifth-year senior, so he knows where to throw it and where not. He's very confident in his arm. He's thinks he can throw it through through a mail slot. So but I think he's taken a few less chances than he did in the past. Threw an interception last week, just underthrew. Barry Brown was wide open on a post pattern or a fly pattern down the left sideline, and just underthrew and ball got tipped and he got intercepted. But what I've not seen from Garrett last week that we saw in the Clemson game, and Brian Kelly said on his weekly radio show last night, he said, "You don't think we're going to show everything we have against Louisiana Tech, right? They made it a little more vanilla," and I can appreciate that. That's probably the case. I'd like to see him take off and run a little bit more. No, he's not going to be Jaden Daniels. He's not going to run as much as Joe Burrow did, but he's got to threaten the other team with you give him that threat that he might take off and run once in a while. He did it against Clemson for a first down. It really caught Clemson flat-footed, kind of in the middle of the field, and then he rushed for a couple of short yardages. So he's definitely one who likes to sit back in the pocket and check down to a third or fourth receiver. But I think he's got to help the running game that has been pretty. They've had some big moments. They had a couple of runs over 40 yards against Louisiana Tech, but they had a lot more no gains and 1 yard gains and 2 yard losses against Louisiana Tech, who obviously doesn't have the defensive front that they saw against Clemson. And they did all right in the running game. They did that they're going to see against Florida and other SEC teams. But I think Garrett. I think the ceiling is high for Garrett Nussmeier and this offense. Once they maybe develop a little more chemistry and find some more creative ways to get these guys open on some deep passes down the field. I imagine they're going to take some shots against Florida, and I think they'll probably hit one or two of them.
Speaking of taking shots, coming into this season, the question would be Barry Brown, obviously near and dear to our hearts here in Nashville, yet to record 1,000 yards in his career in terms of receiving. But there was some speculation. If he could connect with Nussmeier early, it seems like he might have the chance to do that. And 8 catches for 94 yards last week. Do you sense that these guys are really kind of developing that chemistry and maybe propel him to that kind of milestone?
Yeah, I think it's moving that way. I think Aaron Anderson is still Garrett's, his go-to guy. I mean, every quarterback has one, but Brown is he's very fast, and he's y'all may have heard this story. He told this story. Someone asked him before the season started that, when did you know that you were fast? That when I was a sophomore in high school and I won the 100 and the 200 and the 400 at state. Yeah, that's probably a good tip off.
That's a nice little clue, right? They call that a clue right there. Yeah, right. 100, 200, 400. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, he wasn't really bragging. He was just stating a fact, which you appreciate. But I think we've seen that grow, and he hasn't got much of a chance because of the way the other teams have kicked the ball deep to do much in the return game so far. I think everybody's waiting for him to do that. If he gets, the teams, both Clemson and La Tech did a good job of kicking the ball deep into the end zone, and it's wiser to take the touchback. But yeah, I think he's growing into a big role on this team. Now we've seen some of the receivers run the ball. He had a 15-yard carry as well. So they've been doing a lot of counters and end around things with the receivers. Xavier Thomas, another receiver, is their second leading rusher at this early point of the season. So he's a multi-tooled threat, and I think that's what LSU obviously appealed to him when they got him to transfer from Kentucky.
Scott Rabelais of the Baton Rouge Advocate joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Scott, everybody talks about Death Valley, and Wade and I were saying that obviously you guys kind of wrested that title away from Clemson with that win to open the season. But night game, Baton Rouge, a lot of mystique goes with that. Is that, I think I saw this game has LSU as a 7-point favorite. I mean, would that be 7 regardless of what time it was, do you think, or how much does the kickoff play into that?
I personally think, having gone to games here all my life, it does add a couple of points to it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it can be loud in the daytime. I remember the Georgia game in 2003, which was a big, ranked showdown between two teams, and Georgia doesn't come here very much, and it was it was pretty loud. But it almost seems like the when it gets dark, like the night sky is like holds the sound in somehow or something. It's hard to describe, but I think it's gonna be a great atmosphere tomorrow night. It should be a sellout crowd. They ask fans to wear gold. It's hard to get LSU fans to wear one color or another, like a whiteout at Penn State or something like that. I don't know how effective it'll look on television, but we'll see what they can do. But it's going to be a classic LSU Florida night game, and this is a rivalry that for a lot of people like a generation or so younger than me, this is the team that they dislike the most. That LSU plays every year. More so than Alabama, more so than Ole Miss, and more so than Texas A&M. Florida beat LSU so much, obviously, in the Spurrier years. And, people got really disgusted with how much better Florida was than LSU. And this series now is tied exactly 34-34-3 after Florida dominated a lot of years. And LSU's been, despite the loss last year, been more dominant. It's a great game. And a quick aside, because of the new SEC schedule format, it's an annual game that I think probably will go away after this year. They've played every year since 1971. And with a lot of classic games in it, LSU versus Tim Tebow and Florida versus Joe Burrow. And, it's classic games here and in Gainesville, and including the shoe throwing game in 2020 when Florida player threw the shoe and set up LSU for the game winning field goal. I just don't see Florida being one of LSU's 3 permanent opponents. I could be proven wrong, but just geographically, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. But if it does go away, it would be kind of bittersweet, because these two teams have both played a lot of great games against each other, with both sides being able to claim some of those wins.
Scott, you also mentioned some key games. I know Jaden Daniels is not there anymore, but the last time these teams met, last time these teams met in Baton Rouge, 701 yards, a school record of total offense. Does LSU have the goods to put up another monster offensive performance, or does this trend more toward a slugfest in your mind this go around?
Yeah, I think it was 45-35 LSU won that game 2 years ago here. I don't see that, really in this game. I think it's more of a game like the Clemson game. I think if either team could get to 27 points or something like that, I think they'd feel pretty good about their chances to win. I know Florida, they put up a lot of points against Long Island University in their opener, but that's obviously a win team. And then they just seem to they got the pieces. They just don't seem to be able to put together a cohesive whole of Florida. I've been watching the replay before I came on with you guys, and touchdown called back because of holding, a touchdown run. Florida just seems to shoot themselves in the foot a lot. If they don't, and if Caleb Banks can get after Garrett Nussmeier, and if DJ Lagway can be a little more accurate, they certainly can jump up and beat LSU. But LSU's defense has been tremendous so far this season. Just giving up 10 points to Clemson, and 3 of those points were set up on a field goal. They stopped them after they returned an LSU fumble to the 24, and one touchdown on a blown coverage to La Tech. But they've been lights out and looking good at all 3 levels of the defense. So I expect it's going to be something in the 20s at most. If the under is, I don't know what the under is, but I think I probably would lean towards it.
I'm surprised Wade doesn't know what that number is, actually. He is our resident guy along those lines.
I'd say 43.5, 44.5. That's a pure guess.
47, 47.5 is what I'm seeing, but yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a first team to 24, just kind of to Scott, your point. It feels like that's going to be the case. Yeah. And I guess it's also worth pointing out, maybe as sluggish as LSU looked at times, and I know La Tech didn't just light it up, but that's not exactly a bad Louisiana Tech team. They come in with a lot of returning talent coming into this season.
They were good on defense. They tackled very well, and they were very sound, and kind of gave LSU a 3-3-5 look that was kind of unusual, somewhat similar to what Florida does. That Brian Kelly says is not exactly the same. Like, they caught LSU in a great spot too. Right. I got to say, emotionally, I may have talked about this on your show. They focused for months on starting 1-0 against Clemson. 1-0 against Clemson. There were signs everywhere, and they wore T-shirts even pregame warmups that said 1-0. It was a crusade basically to start 1-0 and break this 5-game losing streak in season openers. They did that. You got La Tech. Now you got Florida. This game was going to be huge no matter what. No matter what Florida's record is, no matter what LSU did against Clemson, this Florida game was going to be huge because it's the SEC opener. And like I said, it can set them up to be, if LSU wins, they're going to be 4-0 going to Ole Miss in 2 weeks. So for the next really big showdown. So they caught them in a good spot, and you could clearly tell LSU was just trying to get through the game. It was a strange game. LSU, it was fairly close. LSU was never threatened, but they never could put La Tech away. And I've seen this kind of game against Louisiana Tech before, and I expect LSU is going to play better. this week. I expect Florida's going to play better than they get against South Florida because they're certainly their season's on the line here.
Part of a really crowded menu after dark in the Southeastern Conference, because in addition to Florida at LSU, you've got Arkansas at Ole Miss kicking off at 6 Central. You've got Texas A&M at Notre Dame. A couple of top 16 teams also kicking off at 6:30. And Vanderbilt at number 11 South Carolina kicking off at 6:45. So some folks are going to be wearing out some remote controls, I would think, on Saturday night.
Oh yes, there's some entertaining games. Arkansas looked pretty good last week. Ole Miss, obviously they're a solid team, and then Texas A&M Notre Dame, obviously that's getting a lot of attention. I'm just kind of surprised College Game Day didn't go there instead of going to Tennessee for the Georgia game. But that's obviously a great matchup too. Maybe if Notre Dame hadn't lost to Miami. Vandy, South Carolina is intriguing. LSU's got to go. That's a game that's kind of slipped under the radar with people looking at LSU has to go to South Clemson and go to Ole Miss and go to Alabama in November of a traditional game. And that game has slipped under the radar a little bit, I think, for LSU fans. LSU only beat Vanderbilt by a touchdown last year. So I'll be intrigued to see that game. That's two teams. They're playing both of them. South Carolina comes here and LSU goes to Vandy. So that's going to be a very interesting game, I think, to see, kind of judging both teams. Because I wasn't overwhelmed by South Carolina in their win over Virginia Tech to start the season, and Vandy has looked. I think Vandy's looked pretty good so far.
Yeah, very intriguing matchup. I'd agree with you. Scott Rabelais of the Baton Rouge Advocate joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Scott, appreciate you joining us today, and look forward to catching up with you again here as the season progresses.
Oh, my pleasure, guys. I think this is my sixth radio TV hit this week. You can tell it's a big game week. So
busy boy.
And going on the Feinbaum show this afternoon with our beat writer Wilson Alexander. So they're setting up here in town for SEC Nation. So always a pleasure. Thanks for.
Well,
having
hopefully
me.
we got you warmed up for Paul. So yeah, tell him we said hey.
Yes, I am. I sure will.
Thank you, sir.
See you, Scott.
All right. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports today, presented by TOA of Columbia, as we continue the weekend warm-up. When we come back, we'll get into the grab bag. Stick around.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Welcome back into the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Let's get into the grab bag. Let's start just over the hill here at Vanderbilt Legends Club as they are into round 2 of the Simmons Bank Open, the opening event of the Korn Ferry Tour Finals. It's a four tournament playoff basically on the Korn Ferry Tour, and it looks like right now Austin Hitt is the leader in the clubhouse after shooting a 66 yesterday. Came back with a 9 under 61 today. 13 strokes under for the tournament. A stroke up on Trent Phillips, who is still out. He is Phillips is through 14 today, but he's 12 under. But there have been some guys that have gone low. David and I talked about it yesterday. Nelson Ledesma shot a 9 under 61 yesterday. He is 2 under through 12 right now. But there have been some low scores. Unfortunately, our favorite guy hasn't been one of them. Blades Brown shot a 69 yesterday, has shot a 67 today. He is in for the day at 4 under 136, tied for 37th. So that's kind of what things are looking like over there today at Vanderbilt Legends. Round 3 tomorrow.
Yeah, seeing some low scores. Obviously, temperatures going to get really, really warm over the next couple of days. So hopefully those numbers will go even lower. Hopefully Blades will get even lower. He's going to make the cut, sitting there at 4 under, barring just something insane happening here in the next little bit. But about a 99% chance of a cut line at 3, according to datagolf.com. So chance for Blades to get some reps. When the wins would be nice. The top 10s, the top 20s would be great. But the reps is really kind of what he's seeking, and it'd be nice to see him go out and get some more over the weekend, and hopefully with better conditions, warmer conditions, go out and shoot some low numbers.
Yeah, again, they got interrupted yesterday, and when I looked last night and saw that they had been interrupted, I was a little shocked because who knew? Again, I was south of town all day yesterday. I didn't realize that they had weather up here, so some guys got stopped and went back out. Some guys, I think, had to finish up today, round 1. So they fought it over there a little bit. But again, there have been some low scores to this point and some guys looking to continue. The Simmons Bank Open for the Snedeker Foundation, they are in round 2 right now. Continues tomorrow and Sunday. And again, go to simmonsbankopen.com/tickets to check on how you can get free general admission tickets for this event. So check that out. Continuing to rummage through the grab bag. Green Bay 27, Washington 18 on Thursday Night Football last night. Wade, I don't know that was necessarily the outcome that was expected. Is that?
Ooh, yeah. Packers, wagon. Commanders, not looking good. They have a much tougher schedule this year. And, this is one of those classic scenarios, Mo, when the Titans will be on the opposite end of this. It's going to be hard for people to either accept or grasp that a team could be better, but their record might be worse. And that's going to be the case with the Commanders this year. They had a cream puff schedule last year. Mm-hmm. They're not going to have as many wins. And last night on a short week, trying to go to Lambeau and win, that's about as bad and as difficult an assignment as there gets anyway. And then the fact that Green Bay is absolute juggernaut, tough assignment. The good news is Jaden Daniels does appear to be healthy. He took a major injury scare in the fourth quarter, but it looks like he's going to be okay. But Washington will still be all right, and will still be okay, and I still think they'll be maybe a factor in the postseason. But you got to just kind of come to grips. But they're not going to be looking at 12, 13 wins, kind of like we saw them flirt with last year.
Daniels is all right. Dietrich Wise Jr. has had quadriceps surgery. Had to be carted off after trying to block an extra point attempt last night. And Austin Eckler is believed to have torn his right Achilles last night. So adding injury to insult, maybe, for the Commanders with that loss. Eckler went down in the fourth and had to be helped off, couldn't put weight on that right leg. And again, it's thought to be a torn Achilles tendon, but official word has not come forth yet. So in addition to the 9-point loss, they lost a couple of key members of the team, one on each side of the ball. So getting off to a little bit of a rough start for the Commanders.
Rough start, and now all of a sudden, your 7th-round pick, former Alabama State standout and Arizona draft pick, JCM, when you're talking about Bill Krosky Merritt, as they like to call him up there in the DMV. He was getting all the juice and all the buzz coming in. Eckler was going to be a nice supplemental piece, but now it seems like it's really all on JCM there to kind of get things done for what little running attack they do want to possess. Daniels didn't look necessarily great in the tail end of the game that I got to watch, and again, he survived a bit of an injury scare. They're going to be okay, I think, if they could just weather a storm. And again, you're also talking about one of the premier teams, Super Bowl contenders, at their place. Pretty clinical effort last night from the Packers.
Yeah. JCM, 82 yards and a score in the opening week win over the Giants. 4 carries for 17 yards yesterday, but again, Eckler was more in the mix, it seems like, before he got hurt. So we will see how things go for the Commanders. Meanwhile, Green Bay, like you said, looking like they're in midseason form.
Yeah, not bad. And, not bad. And I mean, we only saw, 2 tackles from Micah Parsons, but what you see is he had 3 quarterback hits. He had half a sack officially credited. But when he's out there and when he's healthy, he doesn't necessarily have to even make the plays individually to kind of free everybody else up. They still got big old Rashawn Gary right there clogging up the middle as well. This is an elite defense already before you add Micah Parsons to the mix. So it was a good win for the Packers. Both teams now get to use the little mini bye and try and bounce back. But Green Bay's sitting pretty. They got to go to Cleveland next week. And then buckle up. In a couple weeks, they go down to Dallas. That'll be a fun little storyline battle. But Green Bay is sitting pretty. Washington, didn't necessarily look great in their week 1 win versus the Giants. They have some things to sort out. I think they're going to be okay eventually, but right now it's not looking great.
Rams come to town Saturday, taking on the Titans at Nissan Stadium, the home opener for the Titans. J.C. Latham out. Source, J.C. Latham. Apparently, Teron Davenport of ESPN.com yesterday asked Latham whether or not he would be available or if he would miss Sunday's game due to a hip situation. Yeah, Latham said. Apparently, he went out of that Denver game early in the fourth quarter, and Udo became a turnstile instantly, gave up a sack on his first play at right tackle. Latham came back in but did not finish the game. Said it made it worse. It's a strain, so you really can't do anything. I'm still taking the approach mentally, getting as much film as I can, like if I'm actually playing. But Latham has declared himself out for Sunday's game against the Rams and Jared Verse.
Yeah, going to be tough. And then to make matters worse, with the official injury report out today, T'Vondre Sweat has now been declared out. So the Titans, despite all that, the line has not moved. It was at 5.5 this morning, and despite those 2 injuries officially hitting the injury report today, the line hasn't moved. So I don't necessarily know what that means. But not good for the Titans. 2 of your best young players, one on the offensive line, one on the defensive line, both being declared out. It's going to be a Herculean type effort. It is going to be an ugly, ugly game, I think, whether the Titans win or lose. But it has to be a really ugly game, I think, if they're going to win this one on Sunday with those guys being out.
Yeah, it feels like it has to be a lot like the Denver game where maybe they have to get a little bit of help from the Rams. Now, they did, again, create 4 turnovers on Sunday. So maybe that defense has kind of turned a corner as far as that goes, but they're going to have to, try to turn the Rams over, maybe get some short fields, that kind of thing to have a chance to convert this home opener into a dub. And, maybe they're capable. We talked, David and I talked yesterday about both Rams guards kind of being questionable with ankle injuries. And if that's the case, maybe that defensive front can get after Matthew Stafford a little bit more and create those turnovers that might be necessary in a situation like this for the Titans. But at the same time, this offensive line has got to protect Cam Ward. He got sacked 6 times out of Denver. So
yeah, and a few of those were on Cam. He even admitted as much, and he'll get better with that pocket presence as he undoubtedly goes along in his NFL journey. But yes, they're going to have to keep him upright. They're going to have to keep him throwing BBs downfield as efficiently as possible. And getting to Stafford will be key. Kind of causing some disruption will be key. And, well, speaking of key, Arden Key, one guy that I did mention a minute ago, he was a full participant at practice today, so it looks like he probably will go. So you're only losing Sweat on the line. Still don't know about L'Jarius Sneed. He was limited this afternoon. But if they can duplicate what they did, obviously, in terms of the turnovers with those 3 defensive takeaways last week, then, yeah, they give themselves a great shot to win this game. This will be an ugly one, but it'll be a fun one on Sunday.
You know, we mentioned during the rundown the Las Vegas Aces defeating the LA Sparks 103-75 in the WNBA regular season finale. The Aces closed the season on a 16-game winning streak. They were 14-14. They finished the year 30-14, and I presume they are the number 2 seed heading into the playoffs by virtue of their sweep.
Didn't lose any ground.
Atlanta. Yeah. By virtue of their sweep of Atlanta during the regular season. So what did Asia do? Well, the Aces hit 22 3-pointers in that win. Asia, 23 points, 19 boards. Just go ahead and engrave that MVP trophy.
Yeah, this is one of, man, and I sent the slip to our good buddy Willie G. Ramirez. I am praying to the betting gods because about a month and a half ago, I took a flyer on Asia at 20-1, and baby, it is in my grasp. It's hers to lose, and it's not necessarily Fee's fault. She couldn't help when she got injured, but she also couldn't help that Asia went nuclear. Not only is she going to win the MVP, there's a small chance she's going to win your Defensive Player of the Year as well, and she stole the scoring title away from Fee as well. So maybe that's a bad thing, if you catch my drift, for the Aces going into the playoffs. A little pissed off at Ephesa Collier, perhaps. But right now, everything is coming up Aces. They get the Storm to open it up this weekend.
I was trying to pull up the first round matchups as we speak here. So it's Aces Storm. That's 2-7, I guess. Is that right?
Yep. Aces Storm, and then on that same side of the bracket, you got the Dream and the Fever. Opposite side, your 1-8 matchup is going to be the Lynx and the beloved Valkyries in that first year of existence. And then your 4 seed does end up being the Mercury. They win the proverbial 4-5 battle there, so they get at least home court advantage versus the Liberty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Associated Press has already announced Asia Wilson as their player of the year for the second straight season. As you mentioned, topping Fee and Alyssa Thomas of Phoenix. So, Paige Becker's Rookie of the Year. Shock. What else? Other members of
only
the all-rookie
only
team.
Citron maybe would have even given her a shot.
Yeah. Citron and Kiki Iriafen from the Mystics. Connecticut's Lila Lacan, Golden State's Janelle Salon, and Dominique Malanga of the Storm, your other members of the all-rookie team. Wilson Collier and Thomas, first team All-WNBA, along with Alicia Gray from the Dream and Kelsey Mitchell from the Fever. Sabrina Ionescu, Beckers, Anika Agwumike from Seattle, Kelsey Plum from the Sparks, and the Aces Jackie Young were your second team All-WNBA selections. Natalie Nikhazy of Golden State was named your Coach of the Year. I'm filing a protest on behalf of Carl Semesco, but at any rate, Mystic Shakira Austin was named your comeback player of the year. Veronica Burton of the Valkyries was named your most improved player. The Dreams' Naz Hillman was your 6th player of the year. So, by the Associated Press.
You got to check these AP voters, though, as you well know, in college football this week. So,
I used to hate that stuff was so readily available because I took
accountability, baby. We gotta keep everybody on checks and balances here, man. Come on now.
I mean,
no shadow of secrecy.
It really keeps you on your toes, man, because you don't want to have to that court of opinion there and that public shaming and that kind of thing. It gets kind of rough out there in those streets sometimes, man.
That's why, I got on to Heather last year. I was like, hey, why do you got the Lady Vols ranked so low? I'm like, come on now, show a little love.
Poor Heather. What else are you looking for out of this WNBA postseason, particularly this first round, Wade? Again, it feels like the Lynx is just kind of run off and hidden from everybody. So, wonder if that continues.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? The Lynx are doing, the Lynx were doing what the Aces are doing now, pretty much the whole first 75% of the season. And only now has one team even kind of gotten remotely close to duplicating what they've done. So the only real question as it sits right now, hopefully there will be some other drama and intrigue, because right now, as it currently sits, it just basically feels inevitable that we're talking number 1 Lynx versus number 2 Aces. I'm hoping that that's not the case. Obviously, you got a 4-5 matchup there in the Mercury and the Liberty. The Mercury were an early title contender, perhaps, and then they've kind of nosedived. So if they can recapture, Willie has told us a couple of times, they have the roster that's kind of built, especially with Alyssa Thomas, for a deep postseason run in her first year there. But can they do it? I mean, that's going to be the real question. But it kind of feels similar to what we saw in the NBA playoffs. Like, we're just kind of running out the clock until it's the Lynx versus insert opponent here. Whether that's Atlanta, whether that's Vegas, we kind of will decide that at a later date. But it feels like we're setting up for number 1 versus 2 or 3.
If you're a Dream fan, that number 3, well, I mean, it was going to be Ace's Dream in the second round either way it goes, and the Dream has not been able to beat the Aces under any circumstance, and the way the Aces are playing right now, it seems really tough this time of year to expect Atlanta to be able to pull that off. So, I think it's going to be kind of tough for it not to be Lynx Aces when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I mean, the real question will be if and when the Aces catch a loss, encounter some resistance, do they bounce back immediately? And if they kind of bounce back and right the ship pretty quickly, you like their chances. It doesn't feel like they're just going to continue steamrolling all the way until the finals. It feels like they'll lose one. I don't know that they'll lose one maybe even in the first round, although Seattle is a dangerous enough opponent. Again, that was a team, that some folks thought might finish as high as 3rd going into the season this year. Kind of a pedestrian effort there, squeaking into the playoffs at 7th. I don't know that they'll get a game. Maybe they do. But, yeah, I'm curious to see how Vegas responds if and when they hit a little adversity.
It's going to be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to it. We mentioned, again, during the rundown, playoffs for NASCAR. They go to Bristol this weekend, and that's the final race in the round of 16. They will then cut down to the round of 12 after this, and obviously there are some folks that aren't necessarily safe, and I'm trying to look more into that as we speak. But Hamlin winning last week out at St. Louis, it advances him through, picking up his 5th win of the season. I'm looking. Oh, yeah. Hamlin and Briscoe are your 2 playoff winners to this point. Right now, it looks as if Dillon, SVG, Bowman, and Barry would be on the outside looking in if the playoffs went to the round of 12 right now. So one of those four is in dire need of a victory or a really good performance this weekend up at Bristol. Ahead of them, Chastain and Austin Cindric are 11th and 12th, so they are right ahead of the cutoff line for moving forward to the round of 12. But, racing at Bristol this weekend, playoffs continue.
It feels like we're due for some drama. Bristol wouldn't let us down, surely.
Ought to be fun. Let's take our final break here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, Wade and I will give you our 10 weekend winners on the Wonder Slate. Stick around.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
There's a line that links us all. Most of the time, we don't even think about it, but it's everywhere. Illuminating our neighborhoods, empowering our businesses, and helping us to recharge. Whether it comes from our grids, the sun, or a kind heart, we believe in the power of good energy. And as your family and region continue to grow, you can trust that we'll always be there for you. Middle Tennessee Electric, bringing good energy.
It's the final segment of the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. It is time for the Wonder Slate as Wade and I give you our 10 weekend winners. And Wade is in the driver's seat. Mr. Neely, the floor is yours.
Let's rock and roll, baby doll, as it is week 3 of the college football season. Man, they grow up so fast on you, folks. Week 3 is with us here. Mo goes 6-4 last week. Wade finishes 5-5, 15-9 for Mostradamus there, 13-11 for Mr. Neely here. Treading water, am I? But hope springs eternal as we kick off a brand new week. And week 2 of the Wonder Slate, all these odds coming from our good friends at Circa Sportsbook. Make sure you check them out at Kentucky Downs. Make sure you go back and check out our episode we filmed. 80-foot screen, Mo, at the Sportsbook in Circa. 80 feet. You can go check it out on our Main Street Media app and check that out there. But all that to say that we crank things up 11 a.m. 2 of Mo's favorites. We got number 12, Clemson at Georgia Tech. Clemson is 3 points to the good on the road in an 11 a.m. kickoff that'll be broadcast on ESPN.
Dabo, don't mess me over. Give me the Tigers on the road, man. I like Georgia Tech. I just don't really have as much of a feel for this team right now as I need to pick them to beat Clemson right now. So I'm going to take Clemson. And again, I'm doing so with a little trepidation, but I'm going to take Clemson.
You know, they beat Colorado. They beat Gardner-Webb. I'm with you. We don't really know much about Georgia Tech at this rate in the season. That being said, I'm taking Clemson as well. This feels like a push written all over it, though. I think Clemson wins an ugly game. Give me something like 24-21. I feel like Clemson wins. Maybe they cover. Maybe they push, but I'm taking the Tigers with you as well.
It does kind of sound very push-ish, for sure.
Yeah, Clemson doesn't appear that great thus far. Georgia Tech jury's still out. We'll see. Maybe they'll celebrate at the Varsity if they can cover that number after the game. 2:30 p.m., we go to ESPN. Backyard Brawl in action, Mo, and Pittsburgh is favored by 7.5.
West Virginia just lost at Ohio. Not Ohio State, but Ohio. So give me Pitt.
This is where the fork diverges in the road here. I'm taking West Virginia. They're going to be burning couches, baby. It's going to feel like old times. They're going to get redemption for Pat White and Steve Slayton, I feel like. I don't know if they're going to win this game, but the Backyard Brawl, about as good of a rivalry as it gets. They'll be jumping for joy. A.J. Good, West Virginia native, he's going to be dialed in listening to this game. 6 of the last 8 meetings have been decided by 7 points or less. I'm taking West Virginia, which means Pitt will probably romp, but I'm still taking Rich Rod and the Mountaineers to get the number done.
It kind of pains me to take Pitt. I would like to take West Virginia. Especially
you're a Narduzzi sympathizer. I get it.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
You'll have a chance to pick a different one here. 2 ranked teams, several ranked matchups this week, Mo, as number 6 Georgia is favored by 4 when they come to Rocky Top this weekend, taking on the 15th ranked Vols. That game kicks off at 2:30 on ABC.
I know that Gunnar Stockton has had his problems thus far for Georgia, has not been as accurate as they would have liked to have seen him, but both of Tennessee's projected starting cornerbacks are out. Jermod McCoy still not back, Ricky Gibson out, and that really concerns me. And I think there's a little bit of a mental block for UT where Georgia is concerned. I'm going with the Bulldogs to cover.
Yep, I'm with you on that. I'm taking Georgia as well. Couple defensive line or DBs out, like you mentioned. They got a D lineman that's out. They got another D lineman that's listed as questionable for this week. Plus, I just think Georgia has a more talented roster at this current construct. Mm-hmm. And so it would take an effort. Not saying Tennessee couldn't produce such an effort, but it would take a big effort for them to cover this number and to win this game, I think. So with all that being said, yeah, I'm taking Georgia in this one, but I'm hoping it's a good game. Mm-hmm. 3:30 on the CW network. We talked about it earlier in the week. Maybe got to go back to an old episode of WWF SmackDown back in the day that you could find a more higher rated broadcast on the CW network than you'll get when number 18 South Florida travels to number 5 Miami. Mo, the Hurricanes are favored by 17.5.
That's a big number against a top 25, top 18 team. I think the Bulls are legit, man. I'm taking South Florida to cover this number. I'm not taking them to win, but I could see this being maybe a 2-touchdown, 10-point game, that kind of thing. Give me USF to cover this.
I hope this is a fun game, but I got a feeling this is South Florida's letdown week. They have been phenomenal through the first couple of weeks of the season. What do we really know, though, about Boise State? What do we really know about Florida? Are either of those teams actually any good? No disrespect to South Florida. Miami, we've seen take down a quality Notre Dame team. I like what I've seen from Miami thus far. I don't like taking 17.5. I'm going to kind of put my fingers over my eyes and just pray, but I'm taking the Canes to win this one in big fashion. And best of luck to the Bulls. Maybe Grammatica will kick a late field goal for you to get you covering on the number there. Moving into the evening slate. We talked about it earlier in the show. We got a crowded evening slate here, and we begin with Arkansas, who's at number 17, Ole Miss. And Mo, the Black Bears are favored by 6.5. They're still using that mascot, right?
Are they using that? Are they using the shark? I don't know what Ole Miss is using down there, but I like the young quarterback, and particularly in Oxford. I think Ole Miss by a touchdown is probably about right. Give me the Black Bear Shark Rebels.
I'm picking Arkansas not only to cover, I'm picking Arkansas to win this game, folks. And Arkansas has covered 10 of the last 12 versus Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I know Lane tried to do us a solid and, remind everybody that they didn't cover last week. They ain't going to cover this week. They're going to lose this week. Give me the Hogs. Got embarrassed last year by Ole Miss. I think they're out for a little bit of revenge. I'll look like a fool on Monday if they let me down, but I'm taking the Hogs. Give me the Fighting Pittmans to win this game outright at 6 p.m. on Saturday night.
I'm clipping this out. I'm clipping this out, and I am sending it directly to the king of Giles County, Bo Wallace.
Yeah, him and Jerry Cobb
not
can
gonna be
come for
happy
me.
with
That's
you.
okay. Yeah, it's all right, Bo. He knows where I live and vice versa. So we'll let that. We'll settle up around Egg Bowl time this year. Florida at number 3, LSU. LSU's favored by 7. This game kicks off at 6:30 on ABC.
Again, I think it kind of goes back to just how bad a loss that was for Florida against South Florida. But talking to Scott, I think LSU, this number is interesting because this might be about a touchdown game. You were talking about a push for Clemson and Georgia Tech, but that might be exactly what we get right here. Give me LSU, but again, that 7 is kind of glaring.
Yep, I'm taking the Tigers in 7. It feels like a push, maybe inevitable for us. We'll blame Circus Sportsbook. This is why it's important to shop around, folks. That's all I'm going to say about that. But we got 7, so we'll pick 7, and I'm picking LSU. This feels like a game that's going to be ugly, kind of like LSU and Florida should be. Give me an ugly game and give me LSU maybe squeaking by 10 points, maybe 31-21, something of that nature. Maybe even a little lower than that, 17-10. Would be a push, and we'd both be crying. But either way, I'm taking the Tigers. 6:30 on NBC. It'll be number 17 Texas A&M at number 8 Notre Dame. Do the Fighting Irish cover 6.5 at home?
Marcel Reed says no. I agree with Marcel Reed. I'm taking A&M here, and it might be a little bias coming into this, but give me the Aggies.
That's okay. We like bias. That's what fuels our viewership numbers. We love it when we inject it a little bit in here. I'm going to go a little more conventional. I don't want to pick Notre Dame, but business-wise, I got to pick Notre Dame. I want Texas A&M to win this one. I want Marcel to ball out. Marcel could ball out, and they could still not cover. So maybe that is the best scenario for me. I'll take the Golden Domers to cover 6.5. I hope it's a quality game on Saturday night. This one feels like it is destined to be a pretty entertaining game. Vanderbilt is traveling to number 11. Yes, number 11, South Carolina, and the Gamecocks, Mo, are favored by 3.
You know, it won't be a shocker on the level of beating Alabama, but give me the Commodores. I really think they feel like they've got something to go out and prove, being that they are unranked and South Carolina is number 11, and Vanderbilt just blew Virginia Tech's doors off in Blacksburg. Give me the Commodores.
Yeah, Vanderbilt strutting around like, all right, big whoop. You beat Virginia Tech on a neutral site with a late punt return touchdown. Big whoop. We'll show you how to beat them. We destroyed them at their place. So I like what you're stepping in there, and I'm taking Vanderbilt to win this game outright. It would be their first win in Columbia since 2007. They've lost 16 in a row to the Gamecocks. That streak comes to an end. They not only cover, they win the game outright. I'm with you with the Commodores on Saturday.
I was there in 2007, by the way, back in another life. Great ball game, great environment. It'll be that again.
It was a long time ago, but that's how long we're talking for South Carolina mastering the Commodores here. Final 2 games of the slate. Duke at Tulane. Tulane is at home. Tulane is favored by 2.5. This game is a 7 p.m. kickoff on ESPN2.
I think Tulane covers that number and then some. Give me the green wave.
I'm taking Tulane. I don't think they cover as easily. I think Duke is a pretty quality team. Tulane is solid 2. Playing at home, 2.5. Maybe they win by 3-7, somewhere in that soft spot, but I like Tulane as well in that one. Final game of the night, 9:30. You stay up late. You can watch Minnesota. It's not Michigan State at USC in a couple weeks, but it's pretty close. The Golden Gophers, or the Golden Retrievers. They got a new mascot they announced on social media, lovable Golden Retriever. They're 2.5 points to the good at Cal. Do they win that game and cover that number, Mo?
I believe they do. I just don't think Cal is very good. Give me Minnesota in this one.
Cal is
at least a field goal.
Cal is good, and they got an electric quarterback, but Minnesota is a little bit better. I think they cover, and I think they win that game by about 10 on the road. Stay up late, Golden Gopher fans. You can watch your squad get a dub on ESPN.
There we go. That's the Wonder Slate. That's the weekend warm-up here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We will see y'all right back here Monday at 2 o'clock. Have a great weekend.